Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about two younger players who are key to enabling and allowing other players that already exist within this third of the field to allow them to play more of a crucial role throughout the midfield. It's time to talk all things black and white. Ladies and gents, so I want to talk about two younger players, one being a player going into their fourth year who has only played one game in the system thus far, and then another player who came by way of the rookie list and has taken some of us by surprise, but is still yet to fully establish themselves. But first, checking the YouTube analytics world, 60% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. I heard the word on the grapevine is if we get that down to 17%, then we'll win flag or secure flag number 17 next year. So your subscription would be greatly appreciated as it is conducive to the Pies winning another flag. It's not for me. It's for something else. I promise there's no ulterior motive. I digress. Jacob Ryan is the first player we're going to talk about, taken in the 2022 draft alongside Ed Allen and Joe Richards. So that there's a little picture there. And that was a massive year as far as recruitment goes. I mean, you had Billy Frampton, Bobby Hill, Tom Mitchell, McSay, Ed Allen, who we'll talk about in another video. We'll save that for another day. But then Jacob Ryan at pick 28. And then Joe Richards, which is a net return considering you get him for pick 48 and then he ends up assisting you in securing Dan Houston, and his story is still to be told. We actually also gave up Brody Grundy in that year. So the end of 2022 was a massive year. Or sorry, that was Grundy going from the Pies to Melbourne, may have been from 21 to 22. Don't quote me. We need to stay on topic. So Jacob Ryan has played one game in the system for us and has been very consistent at VFL level. We'll actually pop up his numbers here so we can reference it. But that's, I mean, like, it's all well and good to see a youngster like Jacob Ryan establishing himself at VFL level as this consistent performer who's a rebounding defender, reliable by foot, but isn't necessarily a game breaker by any means. And he is actually, might be come as to a bit of a surprise to some of you, but he is actually quite tall, reasonably tall. He can play that medium-sized role where he can play tall or small at times. He's 6'2", 189 centimeters. I got it here, 189, whatever that translates to. It's close to 6'1". It might be 6'2", which gives you a bit of versatility, which is what Collingwood love. We like players who can play multiple different roles. You look at Braden Maynard, Quaynord, and Perryman. They all play tall and short at times, which fits the profile that we're looking for. So in the VFL season of 2025, JR was cut short due to a foot injury, which had him out for the second half of the season. But up until then, I would say he was one of our most consistent performers. Without setting the league alight, he was just a consistent, reliable player. And maybe that's okay to expect if you're going to be a role player who can then transition that continuity and reliability from VFL level to AFL level. So 18 touches a game. This probably needs some work. Score involvements 1.3 per game from 18 touches off the half back. Elite numbers in the AFL are anywhere between 4 to 6 score involvements per game. So it's a long way off it, but I'm not going to, reduce what we think of Jacob Ryan just to this number. So this is just another player who is in there going into their fourth year that we need to find out about. And we've implied that throughout the course of the trade period. We have not brought in a bunch of players, or we've only brought in Jack Buller. So these players who have been knocking at the door for the last couple of seasons are going to get that opportunity. And I did say it's going to enable certain players to move from said position into another one. We'll get there in a moment. I just want to quickly touch on Will Parker, who was a player who came in quite late in the 2024 preseason. drafted or came through as a Category B rookie through by way of Will Parker playing cricket at quite a high level. So 2024, we had a bit of a shock with Will Parker playing a few games at the level. And for me, it's always been, besides the last couple of games that Will Parker has played for Collingwood, he's played 9 games up until this point. The last couple of games, I really started to see something in the sense of, for example, that round 23 game against Adelaide, which was a finals-like environment. I thought he was extremely composed. While he only had 10 touches, I felt like he couldn't do much more right. He had got a lot correct in that the way he went about the game. He was defensively sound. He didn't fumble, and he was one of those players, if you remember the game against Adelaide, he was one of those players who was willing to try and give us something through the corridor. Whereas for the most part of the game, up until the last 10 minutes of that game, we were so submissive going long down the line. So I remember Will Parker being one of those young players in the game saying, you know what, I'm gonna put this into the mixer in the middle and see what happens. And that's how Adelaide sort of got a hold of the game through players like Fogarty and Phil Thorpe and these younger players taking risks through the middle, even though the kicks didn't come off in those difficult conditions. It created chaos, and more often than not, when Adelaide did try that, they scored. And then when Will Parker did it, I remember it resulted in a genuine scoring result as well. So that's what I remember about Will Parker. And then he got dropped. At the end of the day, I mean, averaging 8 touches a game as a halfback flanker. I understand time on ground is limited due to the sub rule, which is now abolished. So that's a huge talking point going into this season for younger players who are going to be afforded more opportunities with this extra interchange rotation that will no longer be married to the sub rule. So that's a huge point, okay? And that's huge for players like Will Parker, Ed Allen, Jacob Ryan, and everyone else that we've spoken about and we are going to be speaking about over the course of the off-season / pre-season. So that's a big thing for Will Parker. I feel like you can be defensively sound at 180 centimeters and be composed, but can you find the footy more than 8 times a game? And like I said, time on ground limited makes it difficult, and being brought in and out of the side is also difficult to find your connection and your rhythm with your teammates. So next year is the real test for Will Parker, in my opinion. Next year is the real test for Jacob Ryan as well. And what with these players succeeding in the system next year, what does it allow? Well, so look, I haven't got them in my best 23 right now, but sometimes, unfortunately, knock on wood, injuries happen. And also, we are looking at players who we would like to see in different positions next year. Where are you, Will Parker? Okay, here we go. So, as you can see, we've already got Josh Dacos there. And then we've got Pez on the wing. But say hypothetically, you got Pez there. You can put Ryan on a wing. Predominantly been playing off the halfback. So, whether Houston stays there. What else? I mean, Quaynor's played wing before in 2024 when he was badly out of form. They brought Quaynor to the wing and then brought him back into the defense at the start of 25, which worked, which is what I think is what we're doing with Houston. We seen that he was badly out of form with the ball movement in the back half. We put him in the wing, give him a bit of freedom, and now we bring him back again. So, look, while, like I said, I can't see Will Parker and Jacob Ryan necessarily starting at the beginning of the year if we're fully healthy. Knock on wood, that is the case, that we're healthy. These players are going to allow some flexibility in names like Quaynor, more so Josh Dacos and Perryman more than anyone, is what I'm hoping for. I'd say, while it's not a like-for-like, I think Lipinski, like Parker and Ryan, would be fancying this position on the interchange in season 2026. And depending how tall we go, I mean, Oscar Steen's name could be there. This is just a rolling best 23 post-trade, so don't take it as gospel. It's more so just a bit of an experiment to see all the many different ways that this team can line up next season. Who have I taken out? Wait, Quaynor back there. Well, we're going to expect Houston there. We'll put Quaynor there. I do expect Quaynor to be in the back line. And then where do we put Pez? Where are you, Pez? Pez is here. Okay. All right. I think that's it for now on Will Parker and Jacob Ryan. Let me know in the comment section, who are you more optimistic about in season 2026? Jacob Ryan or Will Parker? I appreciate you all, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, go Pies.